Welcome to the official VHF UHF channel, and this is so we're going to chase a satellite called XW2D, X-Ray Whiskey 2 Delta. So this is an amateur radio satellite. It has a downlink and the 2-meter band. So its main frequencies, if you want to listen to it, is first of all there's a frequency for the beacon, which is around 145.855. Now I use the beacon to understand if I can actually, to see if I can actually hear it. Once I start hearing the beacon, which is a Morse code signal, then I know that I might actually be hearing amateur radio operators. They are using single sideband or upper sideband. So the beacon is 145.855 and the amateur operators are between 145.860 and 145.880. Now remember that there's Doppler shift when we use amateur satellites. That means the frequency displayed could be higher for a few kilohertz or down a few kilohertz, depending on if the satellite is coming towards you or moving away from you. And that's called Doppler shift. It's because of very high speed of satellites in their orbits. So we're going to start hunting because it's still very low. It's right now 7 degrees elevation. I'm using the K180WLA antenna. So we're going to try to see if we get something. You see here this weird trace that shows up around 145.890. I think that has somewhat to do with maybe the satellite, but I don't know. So let's check it out. I think we can see something here. So there's something here weird. Of course, with the fact that I'm using an SDR, what's nice is that if any signals pops up, I can see it in the waterfall, and it's always cool for that because you have an idea if you're receiving something or not. So as long as I'm not receiving the CW or Morse code beacon, things are not really good enough for any other type of activity. But once I start hearing the Morse code, we can start hunting for some of those signals between 145.860 and 145.880. The satellite is part of a group of satellites that go from XW2A, 2B, 2C, 2D, and 2F. And they each have their own range around the 2-meter band where we are. Well, that has a Doppler shift, so it could be the beacon that's broken or something. I wouldn't be surprised. It definitely has a Doppler shift as the tone is moving away. So I'm going to try to check out for any activity here. Right now, nothing much is heard. It's at its maximum 41 degrees elevation. It is right now at 37 degrees, so it's almost maxed. You know, this is also part of hunting for satellites. Sometimes a hit or miss. A lot of the satellites also are sometimes not used much, unfortunately. You know, with this signal that you see here that has that Doppler shift, which I suspect to be the beacon, there should be some activity showing up there, but we don't see a lot of stuff happening. And unfortunately, a lot of amateur radio satellites are not used much sometimes. So there are periods where the satellite will pass, but will have no activity. And there are periods when there's a lot of activity. Right now, I get this tone, and I don't receive anything else. So it seems that there's not a lot of activity happening on XW2D right now. Because at the strength of that tone, I should have received at least some ham activity here that should have popped up, and we don't see anything on the waterfall. It's either that or the K180WLA on this signal is crappy. But, you know, I get that tone, which is now faded a lot, but here it is again. So this is probably the beacon. I wouldn't be surprised. It's just that instead of sending Morse code, it's just sending a beep. A beep of despair. And it's part of hunting down satellites, you know. You can't always succeed. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you do. And, you know, somewhat that's kind of the fun part of it also. What I know is I am receiving it because that tone that we got here, it's kind of telling me that that must be, you know, some activity, some satellite activity. But, really nothing much happening. No voice activity. And, you know, I'm still going to post this video, even though it's not, you know, a very good example. But at the same time, I want to also stress out for anybody trying satellites that it's part of, you know, the possibilities. You might not hear it one, but you might hear it with some activity. So, for example, right now it's passing overhead. In about an hour and a half, it's going to pass over again, roughly with the same elevation. Well, you know, that this pass might not have anybody talking, but the next pass might have tons of people with tons of activity. So it's worth it sometimes to, you know, check out both passes, and they're not going to be positioned in the same way. If you don't have an you know, directional antenna or anything, sometimes one pass is not necessarily the best, but the next one could be better. So, you know, it's things to check for. But definitely that must be the satellite that's right here. So it seems that all that we heard today was the tone, the Doppler shifted tone of the satellite, which is probably XW2D, but with no activity, no voice activity really in here, unfortunately for this time around. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing gonna happen. So we're gonna keep posting some of these videos, and hope that you enjoy the good attempts and the failed attempts at receiving some amateur satellites with the K180WLA loop antenna. If you enjoy our videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching.